to Leading for Life Stories, Season 3. I'm Bob Judson, I'm the host for this podcast, and I'm absolutely delighted to have you here joining me. Regardless of whether you're a seasoned listener who's been with me since the beginning, or whether you've just dropped in for the occasional episode, I really hope you enjoyed the mix of content that I provide, the personal stories, the thematic episodes, and the guests that I have on the show. And I hope you find it all interesting and at least some of it useful. And without further ado, let's go. Hi, everybody. It's been a little while since I did a thematic or a personal story episode of the podcast because I've had so many fantastic guests. But this episode will go public on Remembrance Sunday on the 9th of November this year, 2025. And I thought, therefore, it was appropriate that I would actually do something focused more on remembrance because it is a thing that is so important, I think, to pretty much every serviceman in particular and servicewoman and anyone that's anywhere near the armed forces. But it also, I think, increasingly across society is seen as a important mark every year to remember those that have fallen and have served generally in the military. And there's lots of things that happen, lots of remembrance services. Many of you will be going on Sunday to remembrance services and commemorating the events that have taken place over many years now. I would ordinarily be marching at the Cenotaph in London. I've done that most years since I left the military, and I'm always incredibly proud to do it because it is, I think, a mark of respect to those that fell. It's also a great association reunion for many organizations that participate. And I'm always incredibly proud to be at the head of the 6th Squadron contingent, my old squadron, and march past the Cenotaph as we lay our wreath to commemorate everyone that we remember on that very important day. There's lots of things that happen that are well known. You start with the poem For the Fallen by Lawrence Benyon, where obviously the words that are often used in pretty much all remembrance services and at the moment when the last post is played normally, they shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Very profound and very, very important to think about what that actually means, because I think we really do need to focus on remembering people who have sacrificed, given the ultimate sacrifice over many, many years in conflict, and particularly at the moment where you look at the challenges that we're all seeing play out on our TV screens and in our newspapers on a daily basis around conflict, geopolitical challenge that is everywhere, wars that are in the Middle East, wars that are in Europe and elsewhere, including in Africa. And the tension that brings. I think anyone that's ever served in the military knows, that what we do is we're there really to try and preserve peace. We're not there to fight if we can avoid it. We're there to fight if we need to fight and do the job that we do. But ultimately, it is all about trying to be an instrument for government that is there to help be a deterrent, to preserve peace, and to try and get security across the world. Unfortunately, it seems that the human race isn't terribly good at that. Over the millennia that we have existed, we seem to have had plenty of conflicts, and I've no doubt that will continue into the future. I've been very fortunate over the years to travel quite extensively to Europe and look particularly at the First World War and Second World War battlefields. And the cemeteries there are incredibly sobering. You walk around any of the Commonwealth war grave cemeteries or any of the other nations' cemeteries where they're really quite profound places and amazing to actually see the kind of level of respect that people hold when they go around them, the scale of some of them as well, particularly if you go to anywhere near the D-Day beaches, obviously some very, very significant cemeteries there. And it's just a great place to reflect and consider who you think about on Remembrance Sunday and any other day that you're reflecting on it. Because for me, particularly profound is remembering back to my time in Afghanistan and thinking about the 2 airmen that sadly lost their lives serving on my watch when I was Commander Kandahar Airfield. Senior Aircraftman Graham Livingston and Senior Aircraftman Gary Thompson both tragically killed on the 13th of April 2008 in a mine strike just off the airfield doing a force protection patrol. Two others very badly injured at the time in the vehicle they were traveling in. And there isn't a Remembrance Day goes by when I don't think about that day. It was one of the longest days of my life for sure, as we went through all of the processes to first of all extract them from from the scene and try and make sure that we minimized any further casualties, and obviously to try and save them. And sadly, we couldn't do that on that day. And for their families, I mean, I have a sense of profound sorrow all of the time, and I just think it's heartbreaking for anyone that has lost anyone in a conflict and at any stage, and particularly actually for also those who haven't died in conflict, but who've been very, very badly injured in conflict, serving their country, whichever country it happens to be, and increasingly, obviously, in some of the more recent conflicts where the ability to save people despite grievous injuries is amazing, absolutely amazing. But it does leave people often with life-changing injuries that they're going to have to deal with for a very long time. If I look back to Afghanistan, a huge number really of young, mostly men, but not exclusively, who lost limbs in their early 20s or even earlier in some instances, and will obviously have long lives ahead of them and having to deal with that constant challenge. And remembrance is important for them as well. I think it's just as as kind of materially important for me to think about the sacrifice that they've given, along with absolutely everybody else. I really hope that on Remembrance Day, if you're listening to this on the day or if you listen to it subsequently, that just take a moment to reflect. Just give yourself a bit of space to think about what it means to serve, what those that actually do serve feel about the support they get, which these days, mercifully, is really, really encouragingly good from the publics that we serve, and the sacrifices that people do make. And in some of the times that we face these days where it's increasingly polarized and politicized, and even things like wearing the poppy becomes quite political, then just have a reflect on why that is the case, that we have poppies and we celebrate, commemorate through that kind of means. Because I think it's important to think about what the poppy stands for in this instance. I mean, it came way back from the First World War. It's obviously well known that it was because of the poem written by John McCrae in Flanders Fields. And the British Legion, Royal British Legion, adopted it as its symbol shortly after that, and it's been there ever since. And I think to try and politicize that in any way, shape, or form is doing everyone that ever wore it and everyone that ever served a grave disservice. And I really do hope that you reflect a little on that and just try and actively support, but also actively discourage those that are perhaps naysayers in this space. I thought I'd finish really this very short episode just with a couple of things. First of all, that poem by John McCrae, which I think is very profound and really does resonate with anyone thinking about commemoration, remembrance in any way, shape, or form. And the poem goes as follows. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amidst the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. Make sure you think about the fact that all those sacrifices, millions over the years of people who've sacrificed their lives in the cause of a better world, and providing, protecting the freedoms. Certainly, if you're looking at the UK today or anywhere in the kind of Western world, generally speaking, the freedoms that we enjoy, the ability to speak freely, to act freely, to enjoy, in the main, a pretty high quality of life. That was fought and won because of people sacrificing their lives to do this. And I do think it's really very, very significant to start just thinking a little bit about that, and don't just ignore it. Don't just gloss over it. Don't just skip through what happens on Sunday on the Remembrance service. Just take pause just for a minute, either then or indeed on Armistice Day on the 11th of November, at the 11th hour, so at 11 o'clock, when the 2-minute silence will be held again at the cenotaph to reflect and give that space just to consider what actually what went on. If you do get the chance to go and visit some of the battlefields, you'll get a sense, as I did, of that very profound sacrifice. I can vividly remember in 2007 when we were visiting a number of places, but one of the places we went to was the Somme, and looked at the battlefield on the Somme. And we were there in the company of Professor Richard Holmes, who, eminent historian, now sadly passed away, but it was very, very moving and moved him very significantly just to talk about the fact that we were standing in the start line trench of the Accrington Pals, one of the town regiments from Accrington in the First World War, where we were there, where basically the British wire would have been and the British front line was. And we could see and walked to the cemetery, which was where the German wire would have been, and where those young men, and they were all men, would have charged towards and lost their lives in huge numbers in a very, very short space of time. In about 30 minutes, pretty much an entire generation of a town's young men lost their lives. You can look at that in today's context and look at the way we wage warfare and fight campaigns and think that was horrific, and it was. And I think, we all look back on that and go, this is sort of madness when you look at the scale of the losses and so on. But actually then start looking forward into what's going on in Ukraine and the number of losses that are being taken on both sides there. And just think about, those are all people. They're all humans. And they're all doing their best to serve their country, whichever side it is, whatever you believe in. And that's a thing. That is a commitment that people make. And it's a really challenging area to kind of get your head around, I suppose. So I would just encourage you, as I say, just to have a little reflect on Remembrance Sunday. Just think about what it actually means. And if you find anybody that's wearing a poppy, then just say hi to them. Let's be a bit more sociable. Let's be kinder as human beings. If you see servicemen wearing medals, certainly say hi to them and thank them for what they do or have done, because it's significant. It matters. It really makes a difference to them. They will be grateful for sure. They might be surprised because it doesn't happen all that often, but they will appreciate it, and it is, I think, something you can do that's just a little act of kindness that will make a real difference to lots of people. I'm going to conclude with the other words that are very often used in remembrance services, and that's the Kohima epitaph, obviously used in the Far East and on the Kohima War Cemetery in Northeast India. It's used very often for remembrance services. When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. Just think about that a little bit today. Thanks very much. I really hope that this is a bit of a meaningful, thoughtful episode, and we'll be back with something a little bit more upbeat and cheerful fairly soon. Bye now.